Well, good afternoon. My thoughts are all over the place today. I hope I can stay focused enough because the topic is bigger than bigger than I can probably fit into a 15 to 20 minute time slot. Anyway, the title is Governance Belongs to the People, Not Corporations. One of my freedom-loving friends, known online as success.sourcebt, his name is Glenn Welch, was falsely arrested on August 7th. He spent the first several days in the hole, as they call it, for refusing to create a contract with them. Everything he signed all rights reserved, UCC 1-308. Today I will be sharing more details about this, especially since it relates to most arrests in the fraudulent matrix control system. I am asking for people around the world to get involved, and I will tell you how you can do that. The key for people to realize is this: corporations have taken over our world by deceit and force, which invalidates all contracts created in that system. Our governance belongs to us, the people. It's high time we took responsibility for our world community and began holding those who perpetuate the debt slavery system accountable. To help Glenn, go here and I provide a link to a web page that I actually created especially for that purpose on my website. And if you wanted to go to Glenn's Facebook page, it's success.sourcebt. Success.sourcebt. That's his Facebook ID. Anyway, as I said in the specially created page that I've provided the link to, on August 29th and 30th, I began to receive phone calls from a prison, and the calls were coming from a Houston, Texas telephone number. And I don't know anybody named Glenn in Texas, or at least nothing that rang a bell, and I'm trying to figure out who can be in jail in Texas calling me named Glenn. I mean, I was clueless. All I had was one name, one word. That's all it was. And I was thinking it sounds sort of like Glenn, but then again, with just one word, you don't always pick it up. So I began to be curious. I made phone calls to Glenn's phone number and to his Skype. On Skype, I tried to call him there. I wasn't getting through. Immediate, with no delay even. Immediately, it was saying that it couldn't answer the calls. In both cases, it was rejecting it immediately. So I contacted a mutual friend and who reminded me what Glenn's last name was. I probably heard it in the past, but I just don't think of him as Glenn Welch. I think of him as Glenn. And I mean, the Welch part, I was clueless. It had slipped my mind. But once I had the last name, I began to look for records of arrest in the area in Vermont where he lived, and I was coming up blank. I wasn't going to pay until in all those places that have criminal records and everything. You have to pay for that information, and I wasn't about to pay for information that I couldn't find for free. So I decided to look in the prison system of the state of Vermont, and sure enough, the Department of Corrections provided the information that I needed, and I was able to find that yes, he's prisoner number 10004471, and he's in the Northwest State CF, I don't know what that is, correctional facility, that's what it means. Anyway, that's where he's located, and on the web page I do provide information that you can use to contact him, and what he's asking, the help he's asking for is courtesy notices, and what's the other thing? Where is it? courtesy notices and, oh God, the announcement of the foreclosure uh, paperwork from the OPPT, and he's active in the OPPT movement. He's on several of the OPPT sites. He's somebody that I've actually known for over 2 years, I believe. He's widely shared my videos on with many groups and whatnot. Uh, he's been one of the people that calls me regularly. Sometimes it was actually annoying because he would call me so many times in the course of a day. But in any case, he needs our help right now, and I would like you to go to that web page that I provide, especially if you're willing to help by sending notices. I do provide the contact information of the addresses, and in some cases phone numbers, and in one case an actual email address of the chief of police and the local police department in Hinesville, Vermont, which is a suburb of South Burlington. And also the judge and the state attorney, including the state attorney that is contacting it. We've also contacted the information on the Department of Corrections page, Lincoln Barberi, and his contact information is available there too. Although I discovered everything after 4:30 p.m. on Friday, and they're only open Monday through Friday till 4:30 p.m. and it's not going to be open again, I'm sure, till Tuesday. So I have to wait till then before I can make some telephone calls. But in any case, I'm going to be actively involved, and I'm asking others to do that as well. Now, that's the background of the thing that triggered what the topic is about today. And that is, first of all, contracts. In order for a contract to be valid, all of the conditions and terms have to be laid out and understood by both parties or all parties concerned. There cannot be any information withheld, because if you withhold information, it's fraud. You cannot create a contract using fraud. Every government contract with the people is fraud. Every government contract with the people is fraud. Did you hear me? Because they are all done by withholding information, which is the fraud, and by coercion, by making you think and making me think that it's our duty or responsibility or the requirement of the law to enter into that contract. That's why when you go to prison, they want you to sign all the papers, and I signed everything, all rights reserved too, although I didn't put UCC 1-308 on my documents. In any case, that lets them know that you have rights. Now, some people say you don't have constitutional rights. Well, I'm sorry. We don't have constitutional rights. That may be true. But the truth of the matter is also that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, traveling, and there's a whole bunch of other natural rights that are ours, and we hold them self-evident. It doesn't matter what our forefathers thought or didn't think, as people speculate on that nowadays in the United States. And that affects the entire world, by the way, because the United States is the military arm of the cabal, if you will. We are the terrorists of the world. We, along with Israel and along with the three-letter agencies of MI5, the Mossad, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and all sorts of other agencies around the world that spy on people and deprive people of their right and do things criminally by force. You cannot force a contract. If you use coercion or threat of force or threat of violence, it automatically invalidates the contract. It has to be willingly signed by equal participants. In other words, a corporation cannot create a contract with a human being. So they make human beings corporations. That's how it's done. And if you look at the Department of Corrections thing, it has Glenn's name all in capital letters. Glenn is the human being that's in jail, but all of the legal procedures are against Glenn Welch, the corporation. That's called the straw man. We need to learn these things. If you don't know it, you need to educate yourself. The corporations, the banks, have co-opted governance from the people, taken over the governments, made the governments corporations, so that the governments are privately owned corporations for the benefit of a few people who sit supposedly at the top of the pyramid. But the pyramid structure is supported by people who are ignorant, by people who think, oh, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories. So all the government needs to do is go out on the mainstream media and call things conspiracy theories, and then all the people that are too lazy to investigate and too apathetic to care don't do anything at all. They don't educate themselves. They don't become aware. They don't want to wear the label conspiracy theorist. And I'm telling you, folks, they're not theories. They're not theories. What I'm saying to you is not a theory. It's a fact. Governments have been co-opted by corporate interests here in the United States and around the world, in virtually every country on earth, with the exception of the Muslim countries like Syria, like Iraq was, like Libya, like Iran. They want to go after these countries because the Rothschilds and the bankers don't control those countries. And Russia is kicking them out. And the bankers were kicked out by Iceland, and the bankers were kicked out by Ecuador, and most recently by Hungary. And it's time for the world to kick these people out, not just kick them out, but pull the string, cut the cords between them and the puppets that they hire, like Obama and Bush before him, and other so-called heads of state, which are not heads of state. They are mere puppets following the orders of puppet masters. It's not a political problem. It's a problem of human rights and a problem of universal law or common law, that those that violate the rights of others must be held accountable. And we, the people, must take responsibility to educate ourselves, to speak out, to speak up, to stand up for the truth, to let our light shine, to let the truth be known, to let the love in our heart expand. Because, folks, it's not just, people like the cops, for example. Okay, they do what they've been taught to do, and most of them are not very smart. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all stupid, but a lot of them are. They hire people that have low IQs, and that's one of the requirements. Will they follow orders without questioning? We don't want people that question authority, because one of the responsibilities of people that hold positions of police and military soldiers and whatnot, they're not supposed to follow unlawful orders. But if they're too stupid to understand what a lawful order is and what an unlawful order is, they won't question whatever order is given. So it's not the cops' fault. They're uneducated. It used to be in my life and in my world that when I saw a cop, there was respect for it until the 21st century, when 9/11 happened, and I started learning more of the truth of what's going on in our world and how the world matrix really works. I started realizing that cops are uneducated, misinformed dupes that do unlawful things against the people, violating their oath of office, which they probably never even took time to investigate, and it certainly wasn't explained to them by their superiors who hired them. The corporate structure works like that because everything is done with withholding information and not telling the truth. Everything, again, I keep saying it, is fraud. Everything that the government does is fraud. They create adhesion contracts by convincing everybody that it's required by law. The only thing required by law, by real law, is thou shalt do no harm, thou shalt cause no loss, and thou shalt not violate the free will of another. That's basic, the foundation of common law, of universal law, and it is everywhere. But it has been ignored, and people have gotten away with it. And all the damage, all the harm that happens in our world, all the wars that are fought, all the homes that are stolen from people, most of the people in prison are not there because they broke a law. They're there because they did not follow an ordinance or some other local code or whatever. And the law books are filled with laws that are not laws, that do not have a basic foundation. They do not follow the basic maxims of law. Truth is irrelevant in the current system because it's based on fraud. Of course it's going to be irrelevant. Even the law itself is irrelevant in the current system. People need to educate themselves and be awakened so that we know how to change this system. And folks, we're going to be needing people that are willing to start to participate in real courts. I mean real courts, grand juries that listen to the truth and nothing is withheld. People can present all of the truth. They don't have some judge telling them, well, you're not allowed to present that as evidence. You're not allowed to do this. No. It has to be totally open and everybody's equal, and there's no superior authority figure telling you what you can and cannot present in a real court. Real courts won't operate that way. Only the false courts operate that way. And people will be held in contempt in the current court system because the court system itself is contemptible. And if you stand up for the truth, you're in contempt of their contemptibleness. But again, a lot of them are playing roles, and many are not educated in these things. So education is key. Getting the word out is key as to how the system works. It's time to take back governance from the corporations, from the banks, from the moneyed interests around the world, from all of those that have prostituted themselves and work for government. There's not going to be any lack. I know the fear is if the government is brought down, if the corporations are brought down, how are things going to work? Very well, thank you. Just like they're improving in Hungary, just like they've improved in Iceland, just like they improve everywhere where you kick the bankers out and you allow countries to establish their own currencies based on the needs of the people. And it doesn't matter if it's fiat or commodity backed. It doesn't really matter as long as it's not loaned to anybody on interest. Interest and that kind of loan is unlawful in every major world religion. It's unlawful to lend on usury or interest. The whole system is false. It's fraud. It's done by coercion and manipulation and deception, and it's got to stop. Are you willing to help my friend Glenn? Are you willing to stand up wherever you are, educate yourself, or whatever steps you need to take to advance your knowledge and your awareness of what's really happening in our world? Because as our awareness increases, it becomes increasingly difficult for the corporations and the bankers to control everything. Thank you for listening. Namaste.